Let's preview the Houston Astros for 2026 up next on Fantasy Baseball Today. Welcome to On the Beat, our mini team preview series here at Fantasy Baseball Today. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Matt Kawahara, who covers the Astros for the Houston Chronicle. Make sure to give him a follow on X at Matthew Kawahara. And let's start with the Astros offseason here. Very active in the rotation. They brought in Tatsuya Imai from Japan on what could turn out to be a bargain contract, I think much less than everybody was expecting once we were going into the offseason. They signed Ryan Weiss from the KBO. They also acquired Mike Burroughs from the Pirates in that 3-team deal. What have you thought of the Astros offseason thus far, and what are your expectations for Tatsuya Imai?
Yeah, I mean, adding to the rotation was basically their main priority going into the offseason. I think it was pretty well understood, or expected at least, that Framber Valdez wasn't going to be back after last season, and that was both a lot of innings and some very high quality performance that they were going to have to go in and try to replace him. And the way that they've done it is really more by stockpiling depth. You look at the guys that you mentioned, the additions that they made, all are sort of upside plays. They're guys that don't have much of a track record really in Major League Baseball. Imai has not pitched in the majors. Obviously, Ryan Weiss has not pitched in the majors. He had a good year last year in the KBO, but has not made his debut. Mike Burroughs was a rookie last year with the Pirates. So these are all guys that they like, but that don't have much of an established past in the majors. So they're really counting a lot on upside. They're counting on these guys to be able to come in and kind of combine to replace what they lost at Valdez, and they hope take their rotation a step forward by kind of building it up behind Hunter Brown, who will be their new ace.
What do you think about Tatsuya Imai, just the pitcher, and I guess your expectations for him this season?
Yeah, it's tough to project. I mean, you mentioned the fact that kind of coming into the offseason, I think it was pretty widely expected, and most of the public projections had him landing something like a 6-year contract, something in 9 figures. And it ended up being that, it got to the point where he went for something that was shorter term. The AAV is still pretty good. It can max out at $63 million over 3 years, but it also has the flexibility for him of having player options, opt-outs after each season. So ostensibly, if he comes in and he blows the doors off, he's really good for them. He could just go back and test free agency next offseason, depending on what the labor situation looks like, and chase that long-term big contract that he wasn't that he didn't get this offseason. As a pitcher, obviously they like the stuff. He's got the sort of the mid-90s fastball, can maybe run it up a little bit higher at times. Got a couple of breaking pitches that they like, but it's going to be a little bit of a feeling out process, both I think for the team and for him. Just there are a lot of adjustments that he's going to have to make. He's coming over and he's going to be pitching on a different schedule than he did in the MPB, which is one reason that they are looking at using a 6-man rotation, at least for the opening stretch of the season when they play a lot of games in that first month. So they're probably going to use a 6-man for that, if not further into the year. He's going to be working with a different ball in MLB, and just a lot of life changes. When he said he is not going to be playing in the WBC this year, basically because he wanted to focus on the transition of coming over, getting settled in his new environment, bringing his family over and making sure they're settled. So he's going to be dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's going to be sort of a learning process for both sides. But they do hope that he can come in and be either that sort of number 2, number 3 guy behind Brown, and probably up there with Christian Javier, who they also hope is going to be able to bounce back for them.
Yeah, really unique pitcher with Imai. I mean, I've seen some comps to Joe Ryan's fastball. It's kind of like that deceptive riding fastball. His slider has arm side movement from the right-hand side, which is pretty unique too. You can, it has kind of platoon neutral splits, and kind of like Trey Savage's slider that we saw in the postseason as well. So very unique pitcher. He'll need to throw strikes. Had some issues with control throughout his time in Japan, but definitely a unique pitcher and someone that has, I think, a good bit of upside, Tatsuya Imai, this upcoming season. Let's get into the biggest fantasy question for the Astros. And one of the bigger fantasy questions, I think, right now in baseball is, how does everything fit with the Houston Astros, right? We've seen reports that they're expecting both Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes to be on this team heading into spring training. And while we like both of those guys, and we like Jeremy Pena and Altuve and Correa and Yordan Alvarez for fantasy, we just don't really know how it all fits. So, Matt, your best guess as to how this all fits and whether or not they make a trade before the start of the season.
Yeah, that's how it all fits is a great question right now, because we've asked, this has been the biggest question for them roster wise, I think, for the last 3 months. And they have floated different sort of vague pictures of the way that it could work out if all these guys are still on the roster, where you can move Paredes around to kind of get spot starts at third base when Carlos Correa is resting, at first base if Walker's not in the lineup. They're even going to have him work at second base a little bit, assuming he's still on the roster in camp. They said that he's going to get some reps at second, which, maybe that's a place that they can stick him every once in a while. If he handles it okay, there are definitely some questions about defensively if he can play that position. And also Jose Altuve, it looks like, is going to be opening the season as the primary second baseman again after the whole left field experiment last year. Altuve is still ostensibly going to play some left field, but it sounds like more second base. You can't have Paredes be the primary DH because the plan is for Yordan Alvarez to get a majority of his games at DH. So yeah, it's really hard to kind of lay out the way that it's going to look right now. And I think there is definitely still a possibility. And I mean, Dana Brown, general manager at the team's annual media luncheon yesterday, acknowledged the possibility that a trade is still, it could happen. He basically said these two guys, he was asked specifically about Walker and Paredes, if he thinks it's likely that they will both be on the roster when the team gets to camp. And the furthest he would go is to say that right now they're both on the team and they both have, they have plans for how they're going to use both, but it's only, things can change. Anything can change, whether it's in this next week before they get to camp or even in camp. He's left open the possibility of kind of exploring moves after they report to spring training. Dana Brown has expressed on multiple occasions that he still wants to add a left-handed bat or two if possible. The Astros outfield is very unsettled right now. They have really Jake Myers is coming back as the primary center fielder, but both corner spots are up in the air. You saw how imbalanced their lineup was for the majority of last year when Yordan Alvarez was hurt. They were so right-handed heavy. So Dana Brown has said that he wants to add a left-handed bat. The most logical place to do that would be in the outfield. The most logical way maybe to do that for a team that has been very mindful of its proximity to the competitive balance tax all offseason would be maybe to trade from that infield surplus to add this left-handed bat and maybe have a little bit more of a fixed situation in the outfield. So you can definitely see how that would make a lot of sense. Whether it's actually something that they're going to do or be able to do is definitely a question. And if they do get to camp and this entire infield group is still on the roster, then they're going to face a lot of questions about how they're going to get at bats for all these guys. Because when you map it out, it looks like, Pena is an everyday player. Walker has been an everyday player for the majority of his career, at least the last 3 or 4 seasons. Obviously, he had the struggles last year, but he did have a better second half. Paredes was arguably this team's most productive offensive player until he got hurt with a hamstring injury. He's also their most patient hitter, and that's something that team officials have stressed is going to be a priority for them, is to just have a different approach because they were so aggressive last season as an offense. And Paredes is kind of the poster child of what they're looking for. He's somebody who takes a lot of pitches, works deep counts. He's very patient. And so I think they are very reticent to part with that. But, maybe if it comes down to, do you want to keep that or do you want to just have a roster that makes more sense, they're really going to have to consider moving him.
And his swing is so perfect for Houston, too. You have that short porch in left field. He pulls so many of his fly balls. This is a match made in heaven, Isaac Paredes in Houston. So we want him to stay there, but look, the Boston Red Sox, it just makes so much sense. I don't know if it's, Paredes for Jarren Duran or Paredes plus something for Willie Abreu, but it feels like that is a trade that really helps both sides and makes a lot of sense. So I don't know if those conversations are happening. Maybe it's something that happens throughout spring training, but look, life finds a way. Yordan Alvarez has dealt with a bunch of injuries in his career. Same with Carlos Correa. things can happen between now and opening day, and then boom, Isak Paredes has an opening job there and a bunch of plate appearances. But for fantasy, we kind of want that assurance. We want to be able to project playing time and 500, 600 plus plate appearances. And it's just kind of hard to do that for a lot of the Astros pieces right now until we know the way everything is going to fit. Let's get into a sleeper here that you have for the Astros this season. Who's that?
Yeah, for a sleeper, I think Zack Cole is a name that will maybe come up here. He came up last in September for about 2 weeks. He had a very late season call-up. This is an outfielder who was really not on the radar, I guess, going into last season. He wasn't in Major League camp, spent a lot of the season at AA. But the Astros under Dana Brown have shown that they will aggressively promote prospects if they are performing at the minor league level. Also, the Astros dealt with so many injuries that they came to the end of the season last year, and they were just looking for bodies. So Cole was the guy who came up, had a monster first game, and got a lot of playing time sort of down the stretch for them. This was his first taste of Major League play, and he was getting significant at-bats. He was starting games in the final week of the season when they were still fighting for a playoff spot, and he was starting over Jesus Sanchez, another left-handed hitting veteran outfielder who also, by the way, is still on the roster. So, they have outfield questions to figure out too. But team officials on multiple occasions this offseason brought up Zack Cole unprompted as a guy that they are really excited about and who's going to get a real opportunity in spring training to win a job. Obviously, there's no guarantee that he's going to win a job. There's no guarantee that he's going to open the season on the Major League roster. But I think with the impression that he made last offseason, and he did, he is able to play all three outfield positions. He hits left-handed, which, as we said, is something that they're looking for. Even if he doesn't make the club out of spring training, I think he's definitely going to play a role at some point this year.
Yeah, Zack Cole, an older prospect, 25 years old, last season in the minors, 19 home runs, 18 steals in 97 games. He got called up late in the season, 4 homers, 3 steals in only 15 games. So there's definitely power and speed there, lots of strikeouts in the profile. But from a roto or a categories perspective, definitely someone who does have a little bit of a sneaky power and speed there is Zack Cole. And then a breakout. Who do you have for the Astros this season?
Yeah, Breakout. We'll go back to Mike Burroughs, one of the guys that they added to the rotation. The guy who does have a little bit of a major league sort of foundation that you can look at. He had I think it was a 3.96 ERA last season for the Pirates in the majors in about 100 innings. But the Astros have, one of the Astros calling cards over the last decade or so has just been the work that they've been able to do with pitchers. And if they bring over a guy, they're able to really hone in on things he does well or maximize, the strengths that he has to just kind of help him take another step. Burrows, I think, is, a candidate to be one of those next guys. Obviously, you look at sort of the way that his pitches broke down last season. His changeup was really good, but hitters had a lot of success against forcing fastball. Dana Brown said one thing that they may explore with him is having him throw a two-seamer a little bit more. That's something that's when, you look at Hunter Brown. When Hunter Brown started doing that was the thing that really clicked for him and helped him take off, was when he added the two-seamer after hitters were sort of keying on the four-seamer a lot. Not to say that that's exactly what's going to happen with Burrows or he's going to make that same kind of leap, but you wonder just kind of what it is that they're going to do with him to maybe tweak things a little bit and see if he can make that next step. I think the biggest question with Burrows is just going to be workload. Last year, he threw something like 130 innings between the majors and AAA, and that is the most that he's thrown in a professional season. So how much of a step he can take workload-wise is a question, but if they do use a 6-man rotation at times in the season, maybe that'll mitigate the effects a little bit and help him still be effective deep into the year. So I think that could be a breakout candidate for them.
All right, big thanks to Matt Kawahara, who covers the Astros for the Houston Chronicle. Make sure to give him a follow on X at Matthew Kawahara. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to our On the Beat team preview series, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.